Welcome to The Real in Real Estate, your gateway to the source. I'm so glad you're here. We're all about diving into the nitty-gritty of real estate, sharing insights, tips, and some awesome interviews straight from the industry's beating heart. From the latest trends to cool investment strategies, we've got you covered. Let's explore and uncover all the essential tools and knowledge you need for navigating the ever-evolving world of property and housing. Here we go. Welcome to The Real in Real Estate again. I'm here with Leash Yu from Agency U. And in my opinion, he's the top insurance agent in the city, although I'm sure there are a lot of good ones. He is definitely my favorite. I met him 16 years ago in an office meeting. And the minute I heard him speak, I knew he had to be my agent, and he has been for all 16 years. So
Yeah.
I invited him on to talk to us about homeowners insurance and other insurance.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jean.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for joining us and taking the time. I know you're busy. Can you start out by just giving me a little bit of information about, how did you get to be where you're at, doing what you're
Yeah,
doing?
I've been an insurance agent now for 22 years, and I started off out of Texas A&M at selling industrial supplies, business to business. And my degree was in industrial distribution. Is basically an entrepreneurial degree inside the College of Engineering. So they taught us how to sell engineered products, and I did that for 10 years. And after a 10-year long career, I got laid off at one job, and I was not looking to go back into corporate America. I
Right.
wanted to do my own thing. And so I looked at the business model of an insurance agency, and I said, hey, this thing looks great for me. And I in 30 seconds after I saw the business model, I said yes. And it was the longest 5 years after that I could have ever imagined. It was so incredibly difficult to start my own business and be my own boss. But I'm glad I hung in, because things have gotten really good in the last 22 years now. I've graduated from A&M, moved to Houston very quickly after that. I've been married for 31 years, two adult girls, and one is in college, one's out of college. So life's getting more interesting by the day.
You're almost an empty nester, as they say.
Oh yeah, empty nested. Hopefully it'll be a full pocketbook after a couple more years after everybody gets out.
Well, good luck with that, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this with us. My goal with this podcast is to bring the experts to the people and to the agents because, there are new agents, and there are agents that have been in the business a long time, don't have all the answers either. So I certainly don't, but I know the people I bring on do. So let's talk about, first of all, homeowners insurance. I know you do a lot of different kinds of insurance. But one thing I always tell my clients is the minute we're in the option period to start looking for homeowners insurance for various reasons. One, it takes a while. One, you need to know what the price is, and if it's during hurricane season, you better do it really fast before a hurricane shows up in the Gulf. So why don't you address that a little bit? I assume you agree with my thought that they need to do that right away.
Yeah, 100% agree with making sure that they secure insurance during the option period. And I would start considering insurance actually before you throw a contract in on a house that they're interested in. But by all means, I totally agree with the fact that they should have an offer and be fully underwritten during the option period, because anything can happen. The market is racing. We can talk about that later on in the podcast. But right now, there's so many things that can affect your buyers getting insurance on the home that they're interested in. Number one, does the home that they're buying have any claims? If it has claims, it could really either kill the deal or really slow it down, or really complicate the deal, because insurance is going to be very difficult to get. Now, if the buyer also has claims, or they have claims and the house doesn't have, the buyer has claims and the house has claims, it can be really problematic. And people don't realize when they file the claim. If you picked up the phone and called the insurance carrier for a certain reason, hey, I'm just trying to see if this hail damage that in my neighborhood affected my house, and an adjuster showed up, you filed a claim. right?
Oh, wow.
If you went to the car wash and some guy fixed your windshield for free, you filed a claim. And so there's all kinds of really crazy situations where people don't realize they filed a claim, and they could have filed a claim and become almost uninsurable.
So I have a
So
question. So even though they made the phone call, even if they chose not to continue, just asking the question is a claim?
yeah, if an adjuster returned the, probably not a claim, but if they've, called and talked to somebody and an adjuster called back, or if they even showed, especially if they showed up at the house
Mm.
to look at the situation, there's a claim on their history. It might show zero paid out, but it will affect underwriting on new business.
I did not
And
know.
other things, yeah, and other things that affect underwriting. So these days you could be buying a house that has a 12-year-old roof on it. Some carriers won't even consider a house that has a roof that's older than 10 years on it.
10
And so
years.
some carriers won't look at the house if the roof is older than 1 year. And it's just a way for the carriers to really slice and dice. The perfect risk for them right now has nothing to do with, is the roof still operational? They just want the perfect house. And
Mhm.
so people that are selling their home and they haven't put a roof on in the last 10 years, they could have more of a problem selling than selling a house that has a brand new roof on it,
Oh, wow.
right? And so any disrepair will probably, rotten wood, a hole in the roof, water stains in the ceiling, the house is leaning, cracked windows. It will be problematic in getting new insurance, and probably they probably won't be able to insure the home with any type of disrepair on it. Old wiring, like knob and tube wiring, aluminum wire, uninsurable. And so there's all, and weirdly enough, the houses in Houston that are on crawl spaces, there's
Mhm.
really high restrictions on what they will insure if the house is elevated instead of on a slab. So we
Really?
just have to be very, very careful. And that's why it's so important to start the process early in trying to obtain homeowners insurance, because anything can happen. And also that it's also important to understand that they're thinking that, like, say, a $500,000 home should cost about $3,000 a year. They'll be really surprised when they get a quote and it comes back at $10,000 a year, which is not unheard of these days, right? So there's just so many things that affect the rate that can be very surprising if you wait too long in the insurance process. So yes, start it at least by the time you put the contract in, but make sure it's all secured and said and done before the option period ends.
Okay. Well, see, I learned a few
So
things there. I didn't realize that the roof was only 10 years old, and I didn't, because, people are putting on 30-year shingles. So that's
yeah,
quite a difference between the
quite a
two.
difference. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they could put on 30-year shingles, but it could be 11 years old, and some carriers will say, sorry, we're not even going to consider it. It's
Interesting.
crazy, crazy times in the insurance business right
Well,
now.
I didn't know about pier and beam versus slab either. That's something new that I just learned. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that can be a little restrictive as well, and that's just another reason why it's important to
Start
start the process.
early.
Yeah.
So what happens if okay, so I've got a buyer, they're buying the house. Let's say it's a pier and beam and it's a 11-year-old roof and they're having what do they do? Is there any way around this to get insurance? Because unless they're paying cash, the lender's not going to give them a loan without homeowners insurance. So what do they do? Do they walk away and find another house? Do they come to you and you say, well, let's try X, Y, and Z? Or what?
Yeah, so they're definitely call me in to see if we can do XYZ, or call your insurance agent to see what options there are.
Mhm.
Um, but there have been times, since this is the first year in my 22 years that I've actually had homes that are totally uninsurable. We've had at least 5 transactions that we work on, and we can't find coverage for them. They
Oh my
can't find it
gosh.
anywhere else, and we have just about every available market is selling homeowners insurance in Texas. So if we can't place it, there's a pretty high likelihood that nobody can place it. And so there have been situations where the house or the buyer is just not insurable because of
Wow.
one reason or another. Usually it's a claim situation. They file too many claims, or the home has too many claims on it as well.
Hmm.
You know,
Well, I've heard some rumors too that some of the providers are leaving the state, or they're just not writing new policies, period.
yeah. Yeah, there's very few carriers in the state of Texas are still writing from with an open book, an open pen, and so we're one of the largest nationwide insurance agents in the nation.
Wow.
Nationwide Insurance had the worst year in their 100-year history, last year, and so they haven't written a policy since in the United States, a homeowners insurance policy since about July of this year. So
Wow.
State Farm in Houston stopped writing in December. And there's just all different carriers have just said, I'm sorry, we're out. But if they're still in, they're really restricting the type of business that they're receiving right now.
Wow.
It has everything to do with them trying to sustain their financial ratings. They're trying to reduce their risk, and they're trying to really limit what's coming on. So thousands of people are looking for homeowners insurance right now, whether they got non-renewed by their current client or they're just paying way too much money and they're just trying to move somewhere. And the few carriers that are still involved, since thousands of people are accessing them to try to get homeowners insurance, they're just picking the best
Mm.
ones that they can, the ones without claims, the perfect homes, the more attractive, the clients that they don't think are going to file claims in the future.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, I understand from their point of view, but for as a realtor or a homeowner, that's definitely not good. Okay, let's assume that we have the perfect house, no claim, blah blah blah. Tell us about as far as homeowners insurances, things to look for, things that they should make sure are in their policy. Like I remember the first time you talked, you were talking about wind-driven rain, I believe, and I had not heard that term before.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with the type of policy that they're purchasing. So I always recommend that when you're buying homeowners insurance, you buy a policy that covers the home for all risks that
Okay.
could happen to it. And there's two types of
Okay.
coverages for a home. You could buy an all risk coverage for the home, or you can buy named perils only coverage. And the named perils coverage is not as good because there's the cause of loss has to be specifically named for there to be coverage for that cause of loss. And so a named perils policy may cover you from anywhere from 8 things to 18 things. So say there's
Pick and
18
choose.
things that can happen to your home versus an all risk type of coverage that covers an infinite amount of things, as long as the cause of loss isn't named cause of loss on a homeowner's insurance policy that is a named perils policy, but it's not excluded on an all risk policy. So you have coverage. You have coverage on one policy, but not coverage on another. And people don't realize there's a difference between homeowners insurance and there is an
Yeah.
all risk situation and a named perils situation. Most people just say, hey, I'm buying a $500,000 home. Please quote me $500,000 with this company and $500,000 with this company. And they say, oh, those are equal. And they go down to the bottom and there's a big difference in cost, right? So they choose the cheaper one, not realizing all the stuff in the middle that is
Yeah.
very important, that, hey, this does cover a lot of things. This covers everything. And so people just have to really realize
Yeah.
what they're and we as insurance professionals don't expect everybody to understand that, but we do try to consult them in the best manner, right? So we tell them if they're going to buy a named perils only policy, what they're purchasing versus the all risk
Right.
purchase, right?
Apples and oranges, right? You got to make sure that
Yes.
both are apples or
Yes.
oranges. Either way,
Yeah.
not different. So just to clarify, a named peril would be, let's say I buy insurance for um, leaky pipes, but I don't have leaky pipes. I have rising water. That's not going to cover it because it was only the one item. Whereas an all risk policy theoretically would cover everything that you're paying for, right?
Yeah, so all risk is it covers any direct physical damage that happens to the home unless the cause of loss is excluded. And typical exclusions are rising water, flood, flood, rising water. Another exclusion would be slow, leaky, hidden pipes. And so, but wind would not be excluded unless it's in what they call tier one counties, which is any county that's adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico,
Coast.
they would exclude wind, but normally speaking, they don't exclude wind. So you would just have to read the list of exclusions. Whereas on a named perils policy, they have the same exclusions, but there's also a list of things that they will cover. So they'll only cover these 18 things, but by the way, all these exclusions still apply, right? So
Wow.
it's a very, very strange thing to do. And I would never recommend anybody buy a named perils policy,
It
right? So
doesn't sound
always
like
buy,
a good idea.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
again,
And
make sure
so
you have a good agent that explains all this to you.
yeah, and so in all risk policies do have some exclusions. Like what the way that I look at an all risk policy, homeowners insurance policy, that is, I look at it as being a good policy if it does cover the hidden leaks, the slow and steady leaks that leak behind the wall or leak
Right.
behind your ice machine, and you don't catch it for months. It could be months, and your whole subfloor could be rotted out, or a whole wall could be rotted out because your air conditioning has been leaking on it for months. Right. And so you can buy hidden leakage of water.
You can. Okay.
Sometimes the even an all risk policy won't allow you to buy it back. So that's the difference between a good policy and a bad policy on the all risk side. Right. And what I also tell people to look for in homeowners insurance coverage right now is the financial ratings of the carrier.
Oh,
So
goodness.
many carriers have gone out of business this year, right? And most of the carriers, what they had in common were nobody had ever heard of them before, but that they were also what they call Demotech rated carriers, right? So
Demotech.
yeah, there's two types of financial ratings. There's two financial ratings companies out there that rate insurance companies. One is the gold standard, which is the AM Best rating service, and the other one is this rating service called Demotech, and Demotech rates the smaller carriers. They were deployed so the smaller carriers could have a voice and say, hey, we're smaller, but we still have good
Still.
financial ratings based on Demotech, this Demotech rating service. And so I would tell you to try to shy away from the Demotech rated carriers because they're just not as strong as an AM Best rated carrier. So a Demotech rated A carrier, an A rated Demotech carrier is not equal to an A rated AM Best carrier. There's
Okay.
a big difference. So yeah, and so I would tell them to look for an all risk policy that has water damage, that the hidden water damage coverage, and then I would tell them also to look for an A rated carrier that is AM Best rated. Yeah, and it's very, very important
Yeah.
to look at those carriers like that.
Well, I know I think I can speak for most everybody, our insurance rates pretty much across the board have gone up over the last couple of years, especially the last year, we've seen a big increase. Do you suggest that people shop or should they stay where they're at if they've got insurance before anyone tells them, no, we're not writing a policy? Or what do you suggest?
So if you're with a reputable carrier and you have an all risk policy and it's an AM Best rated carrier and you actually received a renewal, I would tell you you probably aren't going to do better than that renewal that you received. And number one, I would tell them, congratulations, you got a renewal. I have 500 of my clients right now on my desk, a list of 500 people that the insurance carrier is just canceling and non-renewing, right?
Wow.
They're in really bad shape. The people
Yeah.
that are in bad shape are all of us that got the 30% increase from
Yeah.
last year, right? But the people that are in really bad shape are the ones that are getting canceled. And
Wow.
so if I have 500 clients on my desk right now, just imagine how many
Yeah.
clients in just the Houston area are getting canceled. And so everybody's trying to move and everybody's trying to find a better solution. So if you got renewed by your current carrier, it would be a big waste of time to find a new
Yeah.
carrier because I don't think the rates are going to be better. And then you always risk the fact of going somewhere else and then getting non-renewed by them. So
Yeah.
take what you have, but you can always email me and I can give you some advice that's more personal than that. But generally speaking, a renewal is a good thing right now.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know too, because I'm sure people weren't sure about that. Now, I know
Yeah.
another thing that people always want to talk about, and I don't know that we have time to address it today, and perhaps you'll come back, is flood insurance. I
Yes.
assume that that is probably increasing as well, and that's something we probably. Oh, well, you tell me. I think it's going to take more than a couple minutes to talk about it.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, we should definitely come back and talk about flood
Okay.
insurance. But what I will say about flood insurance is change the rating methodology back in October of 2021. And people are starting to get the renewals and the new rates based on this new rating system.
Okay.
And everybody's freaking out because it's so much more expensive. Everybody that was in the low risk flood zones before was insured at $572 a year. That number is creeping up, and it's going to continue to creep up until it hits full actuarial rate. And that new rate is going to be so the bottom line is flood insurance has gone up to crazy levels in the greater Houston area, but I still have to emphasize it's incredibly important for you to consider flood insurance,
Yeah.
right? Don't just say it's too expensive, I can't afford it. It'll be really expensive if your house floods and you don't have
Yeah.
insurance.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we
Absolutely.
can definitely come back and talk all
Okay.
the details about flood later. But yeah, that's probably a whole nother hour-long podcast.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll wait for that then. Um, well, tell us what to expect, or what do you foresee going on with the insurance companies? I mean, we're getting some view of it right now with the increased costs and the carriers leaving the state. What do you know that we need to know?
Yeah, so unless you've been under a rock and just not paying attention to any of your insurance renewals, and I assume everybody has insurance that's an adult these days, right?
I hope so.
Your insurance rates are crazy, whether that's auto insurance, homeowners insurance, any type of commercial insurance, any type of insurance is going up. And this is basically what's going on. That the insurance industry has experienced record levels of what they call catastrophic claims events.
Mm.
And a catastrophic claims event is an event that is at least $1 billion or more. All right. And so in the last decade, between 2010 and 2019, the average annual catastrophic event, the total annual catastrophic event on average was about $30 billion, 30 to $35 billion, right? In 2020, 21, and 22, that average jumped up to $76 billion per
Doubled.
year. It more than doubled,
Wow.
almost more, just right. Yeah, it's just a crazy situation. And because of these catastrophic events, these big events, a lot of carriers have gone out of business because of these events, right? The carriers that are still remaining are trying to hang on to their financial ratings. And to manage their financial ratings and to try not to go out of business, there's three things that a carrier can do. Number one, drastically increase your rates. And so for the
Interesting.
last 2 years, you've gotten a 30% on average increase. Over 2 years, that's almost a 70% increase, in two
Yeah.
years. This
Huge.
year, yeah, this year we're going to see another 30%. And I think next year we're going to see another 30% as well.
Wow.
So the one way they can combat it is to drastically increase the rates. The second way to combat it is they can get rid of risks, right? They need to get rid of their risks, so their financial rating, so they have more money in the pile and less risk in the pile to buoy their financial rates. And that's why I have more than 500 clients right now that are being non-renewed because the
Non-renewed.
carriers are trying to get rid
Yeah.
of things, right? And the third thing the carrier can do to combat their financial or save their financial ratings is severely limit the new business that they take on. So they do that by just saying, hey, we're not going to sell
Anymore.
anything, right? Just like Nationwide's done, just like State Farm's done, just like a lot of carriers are done. Or they could say, we'll take new business, but we're going to be very picky and only put the best risks that are
Criminal.
out there. And that's why these weird rules on, hey, if you have a crawl-space foundation that has chicken wire, we're not going to cover you. Or you have a roof that's older than 1 year or 10 years, we're not going to cover you.
Wow.
It's these crazy underwriting restrictions. But again, they're just trying to pick the best risks out of the thousands
Cream of
that
the
are
crop.
coming to.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, drastically increase rates, reduce risk, or just severely
Stop.
limit underwriting. So it all has to do with the record levels of claims that they've experienced. And by the way, in 2023, I think the catastrophic events, there have been 28 catastrophic events in 2023. So another above average year. We
Wow.
just don't know exactly how, the
How
total calculation of those.
catastrophic. Yeah.
So it's going to be at least 28 billion, but I think you're going to be more like 50 to 60 billion when it's all said and done.
Again,
Right. And
over the
so
average.
that's what's kind of going on.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so hard right now to get homeowners insurance, is because of the catastrophic events. And so back to your initial question, start the process early. It's very
Okay.
important to start the process early. Right.
Okay, well, in order to not go over time here, tell us some other insurances that your firm handles so that, like I know I have my auto insurance with you also. What else do you do if people wanted to call and say, help me, please?
Oh yeah, yeah. So great question. Not only do we do homeowners and auto insurance, but will do the whole entire house. That's kind of my core competency is insuring, luxury homes and their owners. But we will insure anybody's homes and cars and personal stuff. But my firm also does life insurance, health insurance, commercial insurance, surety, 401k. Anything that is associated with insurance, my firm will handle. And back
Okay.
in May of, I've been in business now for 22 years, but back in May of last year, a big nationwide insurance agent Gotham actually bought my firm. And
Oh,
so now we have access to so many more products just because this larger insurance agency purchased us. And so we're excited for this kind of new chapter in life because we can do everything now.
that's
But
fantastic.
yes, yeah, we'll do anything associated with insurance, related insurance. So yeah, just give us a call if you need any help with anything.
Well, let's address that. I will have all of your contact information in the podcast information section, but why don't you tell us how to contact you? What is your website address or email, whatever you feel
Yeah.
comfortable giving us?
So yeah. I'll give you my email address right now. And the
Okay.
website address is about to totally change because Higginbotham is changed. As we speak, they're doing all of these the integration things. And so in probably next week, that website will probably go down and a new one will come up. So
Okay.
but the best way to reach me is by my email address, which is Leash, and that's spelled LEASH at agencyyu.com.
Okay.
LEASH, like a dog leash, at agencyyu.com.
Okay, great, great. All right, well, thank you so much for your time and oh my gosh, all your insight and your information. You are a wealth of information, which is why I've been a customer for 16 years. I'm not going anywhere. Just want you to know that.
Thank
But yes,
you.
I would love to have you come back for flood insurance. So we will schedule a time for that. And I'm sure everybody will be anxious to hear more about that because there's always questions and it's unfortunate we have to even talk about it, but we do need to definitely talk about it because you're right. Even if you're in a 100-year floodplain, that doesn't mean you're not going to flood in Houston
That's
area.
right. Well, thank you
So,
so much for having me on. I really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Hope
Thank
this,
you.
I hope this is helpful. Yep.
Extremely. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in to The Real in Real Estate, your gateway to the source. Be sure not to miss our upcoming episodes loaded with fantastic insights, expert tips, and all the latest trends in the property scene. Don't forget to stay connected with us on our Trilogy Realty Group socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even TikTok. Until next time, take care.